All right, we are live.
Hi, everybody. I'm back again. All right, so community office hours. Today, we will have the product delivery team. And in case you're asking, who in the heck is the product delivery team? I'm going to give you a link from the HashiCorp Live where I told you exactly what the product delivery team was. However, we also have Chloe and Omar here today, and they will talk about it. Both are senior engineers on that particular team. Before I get them to introduce themselves and take it away, one, ask all the questions I need things to stump them with. That's all I'm asking. But also, two, you know how we do this. Be professional, be kind, have fun, be respectful. TLDR, don't get banned from the chat. Just let's have fun. So I'm going to pop the link for that into the chat so you can review the code of conduct if you have not had a chance to do that. And I will start with Chloe so Chloe can introduce and Omar can introduce, and then I'm going to shut up.
Howdy, Tracy. Howdy, folks at home or working remotely or wherever you are. And howdy, Omar. I feel like I've seen a lot of you this week. For those of you who don't know, we're currently having our company all hands conference event. So I have been privileged to spend a lot of time with my amazing coworkers this week. And it's been really fulfilling, but Omar is probably sick of my face already. And we're going to spend another hour together. Before I pass it over to him to say hello and introduce himself a little, I wanted to tag in on your question, Tracy, of what is product delivery, because we've been working on reforming our charter and we have sort of a new focus statement that we're still workshopping, but it's a great sort of summary of who we are. So I just thought I'd share it with you. And it is product delivery as a team embraces the Tao of HashiCorp to enable practitioners with a consistent and beautiful experience deploying and operating our products cross-cloud. Gosh, that's a mouthful, isn't it?
It sounds so professional.
Doesn't it? Doesn't it? Vision statements are always, and then you're like, oh, what does this actually mean? But I will pass it to Omar, who can talk a little bit about himself and then sort of the process that got us to realizing that's what we do.
Hey everyone, my name is Omar Khawaja. I'm a senior engineer on the product delivery team. And Chloe kind of gave an introduction to the product delivery team in our charter and our mission. And I feel like another thing a line that sort of summarizes what she said there, and another aspect of what she said is we're trying to reduce the barriers to adoption for our products. So we regularly work on things, and hopefully we continue working on things that allow you to take our products after you learn about them. And when you're ready to take it to the next level and just kind of deploy them, use some of the work that we're doing to allow you to do that. So we'll get into this probably a lot more as we start talking, but some examples are like Terraform modules that we've been working on, so that when you're done learning about Vault or Nomad or Console and you played around with it in dev mode, but now you're ready to like deploy it across a cluster like an AWS or GCP, how do you do that? And we'll probably get into that a little bit more and talk about why we do that. But that's sort of an intro. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really sort of key, is that like maybe you have, read some documentation, or you've pulled down a binary and you've played with it a little on the local machine, but you like actually want to try out the product. For example, Vault is amazing, right? Vault, every time I think about Vault, I learn something new about it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this exists in the world. But most of that amazing capability just isn't stuff you're going to see on your home dev machine when you're playing around with it, right? Like you're not going to be able to use it as a secrets vault for a large number of services and see how that optimizes your experience. You're not going to be able to use it to manage certificates or tokens, right? Like those are all things that rely on a deployed environment in the cloud. And so our goal is to sort of accelerate that experience, get those obstacles out of your way so that you can get to that. Okay, I've deployed this in AWS, or I've deployed this in Azure, I've deployed this in GCP, and now I can really see those benefits in my stack, right? I can see how scheduling Nomad jobs is going to help me. I can see how, using Console as a backend with Vault is going to help me because I've already got Vault out there, right? So it's that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think another key thing to remember is like with our products, they're really flexible products, which is a great thing. But to a newcomer, that can also be sort of a daunting thing because there's so many different ways our products can be configured. So for someone who's new to our products, they might be looking for a little bit more of an opinionated way to do something. And that's where we kind of come in and where our work comes in to try to help you there. And by opinionated, I mean, we try our best to follow like this concept of a reference architecture, which we have links to for our products on the various product pages. So we kind of give you a way to kind of step into the product and use it without like trying to answer all the different questions that might come up, like where do I deploy this? What availability zone? How many nodes should I have? What ports and rules should I have on my firewall? So part of our work kind of also addresses that part. So if you feel like you're expert enough where you can, kind of step away and you want to customize your deployment your own way, by all means, feel free to do that. But if you're just looking for a way to step in an opinionated way to do something, we provide that with our work, and hopefully we'll continue doing that. If you look at our modules, you'll see that we're constantly iterating on them, and we're going to keep on doing that.
And also, if you're anywhere in between on that journey, right, we're trying to help grow with you. So for example, back in that HashiCorp Live that you mentioned, we talked about those starter modules that we did. And one of the goals of these starter modules isn't just, okay, I'm going to give you this module for your day 0 and you're going to get online, you're going to be in the cloud and everything's going to be great, right? Eventually your deployments are going to scale, or, you're going to set up services in a redundant zone and you need to set up a new stack or whatever. And so the goal is for you to be able to look at these modules as you're growing and learning and say, oh, I understand now the best practices that are enshrined here. And so I can apply that to my own Terraform when now I'm customizing this more for, the needs of my business or my services. And so it's that whole life cycle, right? Like day 0 to day n+1. And part of the cool part of getting to do that, to sort of segue a little into those starter modules, is that we get to both take all of this expertise from across HashiCorp in how products are run, in optimal ways to operate and deploy them, in recommendations for if you're running, a very small service through, many of our customers run at these sort of global scales that it's kind of hard to imagine when you sit down and think about the machines involved. And so we want to cover all of that, right? And not just this one, like, oh, for the beginner, or, oh, for the expert, but really bring that whole practitioner community that is sort of, I think, the strength of HashiCorp in a real way.
For sure. And since we're talking about these modules, I'd like to just kind of share with everyone what it looks like to kind of, look at these modules and use them. So this is the Terraform registry where you can look at all of the starter modules that we're talking about. And they all have starter in the name. So, I mean, this is what it looks like. You have some pretty easy instructions for deploying them. You can also check out source code. And this kind of, what it looks like. But the cool thing here is when you're ready to deploy this, it's as straightforward as just kind of having this main.tf file that you can just go ahead and do a Terraform apply on. We've tried to default as much as we can. The things we don't default are things that we just can't provide for you, for like SSH keys, or, in this case, like allowed inbound CIDR. So hopefully the inputs that you have to give are pretty minimal, and then you kind of get everything by default when you spin it up. So kind of a quick look at what you'll see when you go to the provider registry. And we have them for console, we have them for Vault. So definitely check that out and play around with it.
And I think one of the cool parts of these starter modules is that we have them for AWS. They were one of the first things that this team put together. So actually a little bit of a history lesson about product delivery. Until very recently, product delivery wasn't a thing at HashiCorp. We were actually formed in late 2019. So the team's only been around for a little over a year. And up until then, the HashiCorp philosophy was very, flexibility oriented. Hence there's this binary and it's out on the web and you can build sort of whatever installation strategy you need around that. And that, like, I love that strategy. I want to be really clear. Part of why I came into HashiCorp and into product delivery is because I wanted to preserve sort of the DNA of the experience we have and the culture that we have around flexibility. And so like, I honor that as our past, and that is never going away. We're always going to support that. But I came in and I got to work with some really smart people on sort of solving, how do we cross that first gap? How do we reach out to new people? As part of that, we got to build out a Linux packaging pipeline that was amazing. We got to work on our homebrew taps, which I think have been talked about a little bit in the past. But the real key here was we made these modules for AWS and we learned a ton. And then we took a step back and we worked on some other projects. And now we're getting to come back to it with a fresh set of eyes, what we've learned from this first year. And now we're going to try to look at this as a more holistic project, right? About how do you build out this cross-cloud solution so that someone who's experiencing, console on AWS, as we just saw, has the same experience setting that up as someone who's experiencing it in Azure or GCP, right? That someone who maybe started on GCP and has a multi-cloud strategy, they feel comfortable turning to us because they've seen that we provide that sort of uniform. I hate to say experience again. I feel like I say experience a lot, but and to me, the key of that, and Omar can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in many ways, one of the unofficial mottos of our team is sort of my favorite piece of our principles and the DAO and everything, which is beauty works better. And we get to be a team that really embodies sort of that ideal of not just building a thing that is functional, but building the right thing, building a thing that's like tailored to what it does. And then just getting to watch people's eyes light up as like the handle of that hammer fits perfectly in their hand. That's, for me, that's the magical part of product delivery. And so getting to come back to these starter modules and like start to really build that out for people is exciting to me.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
Also, the reason that, so everyone knows that typically I like all of the teams that you see me talking to live, which is a good thing. But one of the reasons I like this particular team is they deal in light bulb moments, like things that will help our practitioners that's how that works. So this is one of the main reasons I adore them. But back to the question. Okay. So someone says Terraform modules help to set up infrastructure quickly, but highly customized requirements means a catch-up game with the module enhancements. Do you have any thoughts around that? Either one of you.
I mean, I'll say for sure that's like a constant struggle for our team. And I think Omar can actually speak to this a little bit with an experience that we had recently working on some self-managed Terraform enterprise code. But there's a real tension in finding that balance of like, what do I template versus what do I have to leave flexible, both for the practitioner and the future. And we had some interesting challenges around that, Omar, if you want to.
Yeah, so I have two thoughts when I hear that question. One is updating the modules as new features come out for the actual products, which is something as a team, we'll continue to do in sync with other teams. The other thought that came to mind is organization of the actual sub-module. So we took kind of a first pass at these modules, and our goal is, as we iterate on these modules, is to restructure them in a way so that we have sub-modules in these modules clearly organized. So this kind of goes back to the fact where we're trying to give you an opinionated way, but we're also trying to stay flexible. So if there's any part of the module that you need to tune for your own purpose or update, you can easily do that. So like, for example, we might have the whole module, but there's so many things in there, right? Like an auto scaling group, there might be a load balancer, there might be some TLS stuff. If we have those modularized, then at any point, if you need to update something or if something's not meeting your need, you can go ahead and swap that piece out. So hopefully that kind of touches on the question, but I kind of saw it as a two-part question where we have to keep up to date with the actual product and the features coming out, but we also want to give you a composable module so that if there's any piece of it that you need updated or you need to swap out, you can easily do that. So that's something we'll continue working on, and you'll see that in the organization of our modules.
And the comparison I like to make here is like to a Lego set. So like you get Legos and you get directions and they say like, use this many of this piece to build this thing and use that many of that piece to build that thing. And the important part is that like, as long as the shapes of the pieces are right, they could be any color you want. They could come from any set. So if you want to mix up your Star Wars set and your Marvel set, and then you want to throw a little Batman on there, just like cross all the universes, as long as the pieces are the same shape, you can do that. Mm-hmm. And that's the approach that we take with the modules, I think, to keep them flexible, right? Is these sub-modules represent logical concepts. So for example, a load balancer is sort of an abstract concept. The infrastructure inside of it, if that doesn't work for you, you can swap in a different load balancer submodule, as long as you're hanging on to sort of that interface of, okay, this is where load balancing needs to sit.
There was a follow-up to that also where they said an alternative thought would be generating .tf files from templates, which are then checked in. So I didn't know if you had any thoughts around that also.
I think from our standpoint, that tends to be a little more of a practitioner side concern, whereas how do we provide you the code to get to the point where you would be able to set up that template, right? We're more providing cookie cutters so that people can then say, okay, well, we're going to want snowflake shaped cookies and fire truck shaped cookies. And oh, hey, I like that schoolhouse shaped cookie. Let's get some of those too. But we're like the cookie cutter. And then they're like, okay, these are the shapes we want.
And then I guess one thing to kind of touch on, since we're talking about this, is there's probably, and Chloe, feel free to chime in and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's probably ground that we'll never really touch with our modules as far as like application level specifics go. So for example, if you're spinning up a Vault module, you have your Vault cluster going, but then after that, what engine do you want to enable? There's dozens of engines in Vault that allow you to do that. So that's probably something in the module that, I wanted to clarify. We kind of stop right there, because once we give you the Vault cluster with everything set up according to best practices, that those type of concerns then become a little more, application specific or whatever you're specifically doing. So kind of want to just throw that in there to kind of delineate, where exactly we focus on when we're talking.
And I would say like, a lot of what we do is about trying to keep the learning curve for a new practitioner on learning the product, not learning how to maintain the product, right? Like when you buy a new car, you don't want to have to learn about the brake pads and the oil and the tires and like what pressure you need to inflate them to and how much cubic space your trunk has. You just want to take it and drive it down the road. And so like if Vault or Console or Nomad is your car, like we're just trying to put you in the driver's seat so you can go drive down that road and run your first red light and get your first ticket, right? Like that's the world we want to put you in. Go be a speed demon. Don't think about how the road is paved.
But what if I like bruise my rims and I end up with a flat?
Well, so the good part of that is my team is hiring. And if you end up with a flat, we would love for you to come help us fix it.
Understood. Understood.
But also all of these modules that are in the registry, all of our work that is, released to the community is open source. So if it's on the registry, if there is a public GitHub repo, we are 100% contributions welcome, but like also contributions invited. If you are interested in making this experience better, or if this experience has helped you and you want to share with us about it, like, honest to gosh, I don't know about Omar, but for me, like this is a dream job because I get to have those conversations, because I get to be involved in the practitioner community, and not just like involved, but the thing I always say is our product teams face the product, and sort of our internal dev teams, like internal tools, internal ops, they face the product developers. My team gets to face the practitioner.
Mhm.
And that to me, like every day, honestly, that's what gets me out of bed is like, I get to go talk to the people who are actually using the hammers we make and ask them how that hammer puts a nail in the wall. And if we could do a better job getting that hammer into their hand. And that's just like, for me, that's why I went into tech.
Ooh, Tam has a question. So let's see. The question was, how can this work in a multi-cloud strategy? So if she has a multi-cloud setup and wants to use modules, how will this help?
So,
Yeah, go ahead, Omar.
oh, I was just going to say in a multi-cloud strategy, I mean, what I would say there is for the modules that we're producing, they will be for multiple clouds. But I don't know if the question's more about like you want to deploy the product like the same cluster across multiple clouds. But so what I can say is like each product will have modules for specific clouds.
Okay.
But if the question is more about like cross cloud configuration, so you're running like one Vault cluster across multiple clouds, I don't know if that right now is the scope.
That is a little beyond our scope. Where we're currently sitting is like, let's say you want to run separate stacks and separate clouds. So you have maybe something in GCP, and then as your redundancy failover, you're running in AWS.
Right.
What our modules do is provide sort of a uniform interface so that deploying to those two clouds should be the same for the practitioner on our side. We handle all the complexity of the different APIs, the different pieces of infrastructure that have to get set up, so that what you have to understand as a practitioner is just, when I set this up in a cloud, I will get a cluster that has some number of nodes of product and, you know, the appropriate database backing that I need and the appropriate routing that I need. And that will all be handled via the appropriate cloud APIs so that I can focus more at the abstract level of the system rather than the specifics of the infrastructure implementation.
Yeah. And the goal would be to make your job easy enough that you have these products deployed in each cloud. So then after that, if there's any strategy you have for linking your environments, then that would, hopefully we made it easy for you to do that.
Let me see if there was a follow-up. No, they are talking. I will let them talk in the chat. You all continue and I'll come back to their very interesting conversation.
I'm trying to think what else we should talk about. Gosh, I don't know, Omar. Okay, I'm going to take advantage of this time that I have on camera recording things to put you on the spot.
Ooh.
I'm
here for
Omar, what has been your favorite thing to work on, or your favorite thing that you learned, or like biggest excitement from from our first year in product delivery? That feels like a really good, like, I want to know.
Yeah. So for me, what's been awesome, because you know, part of my passion for HashiCorp products has always been being able to reduce the barrier to entry for using our products. You know, I'm on product delivery right now, but before this, I used to be on the education team. So I have some experience, you know, writing guides, you know, teaching courses that, you know, tell our users how to use our products. So, you know, part of my passion has always been to get in there and find out what is it that's stopping the user from deploying this product in any given cloud. So what I like is that I get to learn on this job, but I also get to kind of learn from other teams and distill the knowledge that I get, and hopefully distill that so that when the user's using our products, they're kind of getting a lot of that knowledge just kind of baked in to what they're deploying. So that's been a great part of my experience so far, being able to just, you know, reduce the burden, so that someone trying to deploy something can easily do it and not think about, you know, the 50,000 different things that need to be considered when deploying the product. So that's definitely an exciting thing to be able to do.
Agreed. Hard agreed. I feel like everyone on our team, that's the thing I will say. It's hard. It's almost hard on our team to get people to like try to take credit for things or do like big rock star projects, because at the end of the day, everyone who has joined this team has this attitude of like, but there are people out there hurting and I could go fix it for them. And I don't want to invent the next boundary. I want to fix all of the problems that are still in our backlog. And that's, for me, that I will say has been the best part of year one of product delivery, has been just getting to meet people who are so growth and improvement minded every day.
Oh, I have another question.
Excellent.
And then I like where the conversation went, so I'll throw that in there after. Okay, so the question is, if someone wants to use these modules but aren't familiar with Terraform, what is the best way for them to get started?
Ooh.
I think that's going to be the partnership that we are working on with the Learn team to integrate these things into some getting started documentation / online. I don't know what they call it, where it's not like quite a course. I don't want to call it a course, but like where you like follow the steps to do the thing. Some of that work that I mentioned earlier with the self-managed Terraform Enterprise module, I know is already in progress. And I believe there's some other stuff in the works for that, but these will ultimately be integrated into the Learn site in ways that should help you learn both our product and a little bit about Terraform at the same time.
Yeah, I just posted the Learn guide for getting started with Terraform in the chat. And then there are a couple of guides on modules, like reusing configuration with modules. So I'll add those into the chat also. Let's see. Module stuff. And then Matthew had to run, but his thoughts on modules was, so he personally favors modules that do one thing and do it well. When he needs a complex deployment, he calls multiple modules and feed outputs of one module into the next module, but because he's personally not a fan of large modules that try to do too much. He feels it lowers readability, increases complexity, and makes future changes difficult. That felt like a really nice quote that I need to put down to him. How do you, like, where do you all stand? Like, what's your stance on what he said? Like, do you agree? Do you disagree? Is it kind of a mix?
Why are you trying to get me to light a trash can on fire on film, Tracy? Do you really want me to issue fighting words? Because I agree with Matthew 100%, but I'm going to say some like inflammatory things now.
I say go for it, and I've got your back, but also I'll talk to my boss and she has my back.
All right. Well, I'm going to let Omar have an opinion first then, because once I light this garbage can on fire, it's just going to burn. I'm going to be like Luis on Bob's Burgers.
Right.
So flames.
I've got tea to throw on it. So continue.
So I'm sort of in that boat where, if you're just starting to write some Terraform and you're learning and you're just like getting started with something, a lot of times like the Terraform you write could be a pretty flat structure Terraform. Of course, as your Terraform code grows and you're adding new functionality, I'm all about, keeping things modular. It helps with readability. It helps with reusability. So definitely like you want to get into the process of making sub modules out of things instead of having completely flat structure. So I'm not like disagreeing there. And as your project continues to grow, you might even take the sub modules out and make them their own modules that you pull down when you're creating the module. So I don't see anything controversial there. I don't know when, I'm not going to say at what point in your project you need to start implementing that structure, but it makes sense that at some point, if your project grows large enough, you start modularizing a bit. But I don't have a hard setting for when you start doing that.
So in my opinion, engineering is a constant war against entropy. Let's start there. And in this constant war against entropy, it is always my best intention to remain well organized. So every time I sit down to write a module, I'm like, all right, we're going to write submodules and we're going to have documentation and it is going to be great. And I worked as an SRE for almost 3 years. And in that time, I led refactor on a few different Terraform pieces. And ultimately, the company I worked for did a full refactor of Terraform for the company, because long-term, complex things are going to emerge from the simple thing you wrote. So as you scale up, as you introduce new services, as your company takes on a new product that you are testing out in the market for the first time, not that we know anything about that, right? Those things lead to complexity of your Terraform, of your code base over time. And so my argument is, yes, you should always strive to build these modules that are single purpose, that do one thing excellently. But a huge part of what makes that functional is understanding that some of that flexibility still has to be there to accommodate growth you haven't seen yet, or changes you don't know are coming. Don't pre-optimize, but don't under-optimize either, right? Like, make sure you've got room to make those changes. For example, my previous company was a media company, and we needed the ability to be able to scale things rapidly, because we suddenly had an article take off where we might have seen 500 hits on that code path daily for the last week, but all of a sudden, because this thing went viral, now we're seeing 500 hits on that code path a second. Well, the Terraform needs to be flexible enough to accommodate that. And then second, if you are going to pursue that goal, understand that, like a bonsai tree, it requires constant maintenance. Single purpose things don't remain single purpose because the world tends towards chaos. That, like, everything degrades. That is the nature of things. If you don't come back and prune that code, it doesn't matter how single purpose those modules were when you grabbed them the first time. Within 18 months, you won't have any idea what they do. And I think if you don't accept that that is sort of a natural cycle and a natural struggle, you end up with these unreadable Terraform code bases where you can't make changes. You end up having to wipe out your whole infra and start over. And like, that is the actual trap, I think, more than just, oh, my Terraform does a few things.
That wasn't a big fire. It was more like, I forgot to throw some water on the bonfire and it's kind of smoking right now. Do I feed it, or do we just put it all the way out? That one was.
I tried to pull it back.
Let's see. Someone says they think the median ground could be custom cooked modules, which use stock modules, and that would keep the maintenance simple. So you need to go look at this chat when you get a chance, like before you take off, because it's a nice little chat going on.
I just need them to internally apply to move over to my team, clearly. Come do a residency with me.
AKA go check out the jobs board for HashiCorp to see what you can find for this particular team. Is it listed under?
Yeah, we've got open roles currently listed. So
okay. Yeah. So yes, please go look for those. All right. What else do you all have? I'm enjoying this.
I don't know. I'm like at the end of my day. I've reached that, like, I'm crazy sort of brain melty stage.
I'm kind of with you. Omar, did you have anything else?
I wanted to kind of go back to that one question one of the folks asked about what to do if you've never used Terraform before. So I just wanted to kind of direct your attention to like learn.hashicorp.com. It's a great site. Like, if you've never used Terraform before, they have a great introduction to Terraform there. And I feel like if you just spend some time kind of learning the basics there, you're able to then kind of take off with the modules that we're talking about. Once you kind of learn how to use the Terraform CLI and like just do a basic Terraform Terraform apply. So I just wanted to kind of direct users' attention there. Yep.
I also want to give a shout out to our amazing community team on that same axis, because while we are not currently having them because it is not safe yet, hopefully as things start getting back to normal, we will see the hugs come back. And the HashiCorp user group, honest to goodness, like, I was a baby SRE and I knew nothing about HashiCorp products, and talks from HashiCorp user group like helped me learn literally everything I know. And they're some of the most friendly, informative, wildly smart, imaginative, creative people I've ever met. Like, I've never left a hug without feeling like I learned something, like I met someone amazing, and like I had a question that I was going to like set out to answer for myself to increase that knowledge. So as the world starts coming back online, if you're the kind of person who learns better from people than from reading, I definitely recommend checking out your local HashiCorp user group and HashiTalks as well.
So so most of them are being held virtually now, which is kind of great because, and I hate to say it this way, but the one good thing the pandemic did do was make things a little bit more accessible. So what I'm doing now, I'm putting in the chat, and then I actually have 2 more questions that popped up in the chat, is putting a link to our community page. So if anybody wants to find out what hugs they can go to, keep up with the community office hours, even find a way to our discuss forum, which is where everybody asks questions and everybody answers questions. I just put that in the chat. And yeah, shout out to HashiTalks. HashiTalks is awesome. All right, here we go. Question. Other starter modules will ask you to run Packer to build the images before you can deploy a cluster. What do these modules do? And what's the best way to deal with the Packer plus Terraform workflow?
We don't have Packer in our modules.
Yeah, we love you. So we gave you the gift of vanilla Ubuntu. Merry Christmas. More seriously, one of our philosophies is there is a product for every practitioner that will get them in the door. But if the product that is going to get you in the door is using a Terraform module, we should not ask you to go learn Packer on top of that. So we handle as much as we can through scripting and using vanilla images. And that is one of the places where we will bake flexibility into the model so that if you already have Packer, say you are new, but you're at a company that maintains a repository of Packer images where you need to pull one of those down because that's the workflow, like you can supply that image to us as long as it is on a platform we support. But our goal is always that if you are picking up this module, the only thing you should have to know is AWS and how to run a CLI and like how to fill in the information. And then, we can take it from there for you. Because I don't know about anyone else on the call, but for me, like encountering a software I've never seen before that I have to learn to get something done that my boss is now breathing down my neck for is like, it's the adult version of the I've shown up for a pop quiz that I didn't study for and I have no pants on.
Right. Nope, that makes sense. I hope that answers your question, person in chat. You know who you are.
I'm gonna go give someone side eye later.
Yeah, I will direct you to the person to give the side eye to internally. Someone asked, oh, come on, Tam. How do we get Tracy to give a demo on using modules from the command line? I will get you back later. Let's see. Another question is...
You buy me and Tracy a lot of cake and you give us 2 days and you don't censor what we say on the feed. That's how you get it done.
Considering who posted that probably would not be a problem.
I'll go into Terraform Thunderdome with Tracy. We can do this, but I've got conditions. There's a rider, and I need all the green M&Ms picked out of the bowl.
The next question, I'm going to hold you to that. The next question is, if I wanted to go write my own module today, what advice would you give me?
Who wants to take that one?
My advice would actually be that there is a really great course on learn.hashicorp.com that will walk you through the entire process. And my recommendation is go do that thing, but be the kind of detail-oriented person that actually does all the stuff they tell you to do, because I didn't, and then I cried.
That's pretty good advice.
I cried.
Let's see. Yeah, somebody else agreed. Oh yeah, the person that asked the question said, I agree. I love Packer, but it is an extra step I don't want to run when I want to cluster quickly. Let me respond with cake and no censoring, and we're there. Do you all have anything else to ask? This has been some good discussion and some good questions. Oh, Kyle was the one that asked that question, by the way.
Oh, all right. I see how it is.
I'll just append Chloe's previous answer with, after you learn the modules and you get really good at it, then come work for us.
Nice. All right. And it looks like we've got to go for the no censorship and cake.
Excellent. Let's find a date. We'll do a thing. It'll be great.
Sounds like fun.
I got a module that I would love to bang on with you. So.
Ooh, all right.
We'll do the thing.
We'll
do the thing. It'll be great.
Let's see. I have no more questions in chat. Did you all have anything else you wanted to go over?
I think the biggest thing I have left is keep an eye out. We're doing some big stuff this year that I can't talk about yet, and I hate to be that person because like I am committed to the open source, working transparently. Like this is my ethos. But yeah, we've got some big things coming this year in terms of product delivery. So if you're a person who benefits from them, keep an eye out. And if you're a person who's interested in working on them, I know I've said it a few times, but we are looking for creative, passionate, motivated people who want to make things suck less for other people.
Tam wants to know what type of cake.
Yes, cake.
That was my answer also. Before we get off, I enjoy you all so much. This is gonna be fun.
We should do this every month.
That sounds like another plan. I will put you on the calendar. You heard her say it, Omar. You heard her.
Oh, I'll do this with you every month, but you'll get a half hour of whatever comedy I got.
I'm down.
I'll take it. Let's see. So what we have coming up for community, I pasted the previous HashiCorp Live, but I'll paste it again where I got to talk to Kyle and Omar about Terraform modules and more about what the product delivery team does. So I'm going to paste that in the chat. Let's see. Tomorrow we'll have 2 HashiCorp Live. So we'll have the EMEA one and the US one. The first one is at 7 a.m. Y'all, I got up at 6 o'clock last week and 7 a.m. Eastern time, and it'll be terraforming with Freeman. So for the past few weeks, they've been slowly learning Terraform and how to incorporate things and commands and that kind of stuff. Then for the afternoon one, it'll be a surprise from Jono. So Jono never disappoints. So just join and you'll like whatever's going to happen. Our next community office hours, I see the question. I will ask that after this one. The next community hours are on Tuesday, and guess who you get to see again? Omar. So on Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern time, you'll get to see him again as he talks with Rob and Rosemary about the Vault Terraform module. And a question in the chat was, will there be product delivery sessions for other HashiCorp products as we have been discussing only Terraform and modules, which means they like you.
So the short version of that answer is we are about to undertake modules that deploy the other products. And those modules and reference architectures are a big piece of our focus for the next year. So we will be having more conversations about deploying other products and how that all works and modules to get you accelerated on that. But for the next foreseeable months, we're very focused on these modules that get you accelerated, getting these things deployed. And Kyle is partially trolling us because he left us.
I know.
So he's gone over to release engineering now. So you can ask him for questions about releases of these products, which will also help you get through the lean times until we come back to you.
I think that was the last thing. I'll set up. Okay, so Tam says she's down for a HashiCorp Live, and they just need to make sure that they order the right cake to get to us. So that should be fun. Omar is Tuesday, and maybe we'll be back next week because I really enjoyed today. I hope you all enjoyed it. There were some really good questions and conversation in chat, and that's what I live for. Oh yeah, Tam, we'll talk. You're writing modules for console. I'm gonna let you talk to Rosemary about that. But that's all I have. Do you all have anything else before we say bye?
Nah.
It was awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. This is great.
All right. So I'm going to wave and we're going to say bye. Bye, everybody.